Judge Engoron's latest ruling is a really bad one for Donald Trump, reminding the former president who's really the boss in his courtroom. Let's discuss it. I'm Dave Aronberg, state attorney for Palm Beach County, aka the Florida Lawman, here on the MeidasTouch network. And I want to say thank you to all the viewers who have left comments and likes and all the eyeballs in the last video. Donald Trump really does not like the gag order imposed on him by Judge Engoron, even though the judge imposed just a limited gag order. I mean, this is hardly cruel and unusual punishment, a violation of the 8th Amendment to the Constitution. We're just talking about a gag order that restricts the former president from talking badly about Judge Engoron's staff, meaning his law clerk, the law clerk that sits next to him and is apparently a registered Democrat and has been the target of Trump's ardent followers. The MAGA world has heaped lots of abuse upon the clerk. And remember, when you're a clerk, you're not an elected official. You're not appointed by the governor. You didn't sign up for this abuse. You know, the judge, the prosecutor, in this case, the attorney general's office, they generally know how this game is played. But when you're court staff, no, you don't ever expect to be the target of abuse from a defendant or the defendant's followers. And so Judge Engoron was really protective of his clerk and said, I'm going to impose this gag order to protect my court staff, and it's going to be on Donald Trump and subsequently his lawyers not to criticize the clerk. You can't verbally attack her. And if you do, you're going to be sanctioned. And he's been sanctioned twice already for a total of $15,000. Again, not quite cruel and unusual punishment. But yet Donald Trump does not like this, and his lawyers do not like this. And Judge Engoron has said that future punishments could be a lot harsher. After all, he says he's going to vigorously and rigorously enforce the gag order from here on out. So what has happened in this New York civil fraud trial is that Trump's lawyers have called him to the stand on December 11th. And that's important because when Trump is called by his own lawyers to the stand, that gives Trump the ability to talk in the way he likes, which is a narrative, to sometimes get off topic. Now, you know there'll be objections by the state, but Trump will have a lot more leeway this time around than the previous time he testified in the case, because then he was called by the state, and the state would ask leading questions. And yeah, he would try to go off on tangents, but the judge would rein him in. But here, he's called by his own lawyers. And his own lawyers are going to give him the ability just to freewheel out there and talk all about stuff. And he wants to badmouth this clerk. How do I know? Because his own lawyers just asked Judge Engoron to postpone Trump's testimony from December 11th until after the appellate courts finally conclude on whether or not the gag order should remain in effect. You may remember that just recently, the first level appellate court in New York said that the gag order is reinstated. After all, they saw the 275 pages of single-space vitriol, hatred spewed by Trump supporters through voicemails left for the clerk. Half of the voicemails, half of the aggressive comments were anti-Semitic. The appellate court, as a result, reinstated the gag order. And now Trump is planning on appealing it further. But in the meantime, his lawyers asked Judge Engoron to please, let's hold off on the testimony until we get a ruling on the gag order. Because apparently they believe that Trump is not going to be able to comply with the gag order on the stand, that he's going to be sitting just feet away from the clerk and is going to let something slip and is going to attack the clerk. And if that happens, yeah, he could be hit hard with a sanction. And with more than just a fine of $10,000 or $5,000. So the lawyers for Donald Trump asked Judge Engoron to please delay his testimony. And here's the actual conversation between the lawyer for Donald Trump, Christopher Kise, the former Florida Solicitor General, and Judge Engoron. It went like this. Chris Kise had this lengthy request to delay Trump's testimony, and Judge Engoron responded, absolutely not. No way. No how. It's a non-starter. You can just feel him pounding the desk. So you see, Judge Engoron means business. And look, I have been critical of the judiciary for giving Trump special treatment because it looks like that Trump is being treated better than any other criminal defendant because Trump is running for president, because he's the leading candidate for president on the Republican side, and because he's a former president. But no one's above the law. We're supposed to have equal treatment under the law. And judges are very nervous about looking political. They overcompensate to try to ensure the public that they are apolitical. But sometimes that means they do things like give a defendant special treatment to bend over backwards to give them deference. And it reminds me of a quote from my favorite band, Rush. If you choose not to decide, you'll still have made a choice. Yeah, if you choose not to levy sanctions against a defendant, you still have made a choice. The choice is to treat that defendant better than another defendant. Because take it from me as a prosecutor, if one of our defendants started blasting the judge or blasting prosecutors, that defendant would have been sanctioned pretty severely, perhaps even wearing an orange jumpsuit. But so far, in Trump's 4 criminal trials and civil trials against him, the only sanctions have been levied by Judge Engoron for a total of $15,000. And don't expect Judge Engoron to send Trump to jail pending trial, because the trial in New York that Judge Engoron is presiding over is a civil trial. It's not a criminal trial. So it'd be really rare for a civil trial judge to send a defendant to jail pending trial as a sanction or for any other reason. But, if Trump continues to poke the bear, I guess it's not out of the question. Just don't expect it. One final point about this. You won't be able to watch Donald Trump on the stand on December 11th. And that's because New York doesn't allow cameras in their courtrooms. Neither do federal judges. Federal courts do not allow cameras in the courtroom. That's why the only time you'll be able to see a Trump trial would possibly be the Atlanta trial, the one in Fulton County. But that one is probably not going to take place until after the election. So these other trials involving Trump are most likely going to be secret. And that does not help the criminal justice system. One of the reasons why I do these videos as a sitting prosecutor is because I believe in increased transparency of the criminal justice system. There's already a lot of secrecy built into the system. Grand juries, totally secret. Cases themselves and the hearings in federal court and in states like New York, secret. And when you're dealing with so much misinformation by a political movement, there's going to be lies coming out of the hearing. So when Trump testifies at trial on December 11th, he's going to be able to come out afterwards and say, oh, this is what happened. And then it's going to be a he said, she said when it comes to him versus Letitia James, the attorney general. And yeah, there'll be transcripts and reporters, but the MAGA movement isn't going to believe anything that others say. They're going to believe what the boss says. At least when it comes to having a recording and a video recording, it's tough to refute that. People lie, but video recordings don't. So I think it's really important for the sake of our democracy, for the sake of truth and transparency, that we allow cameras in the courtroom, especially when you're talking about a divisive individual like Donald Trump, who could be the next president and have great damage to our democracy. So it is a shame that we're not going to be able to see this. It is, in fact, instead of seeing him on the stand, you're going to get the courtroom artist's interpretation of Donald Trump. I mean, you can see for yourself, those drawings are not lifelike. I mean, it's such a nice drawing. It looks many years younger, much thinner. That could be his Tinder profile picture if you wanted it to be. But, that's what we're going to be left with. And it's a shame in the year 2023 that we're still stuck in the stone ages of having a stenographer and a courtroom artist instead of using our technology to beam the video around the world. But that's where we are. And hopefully that changes and changes soon. So get ready. December 11th is going to be a big day. Trump takes a stand, and then he'll be subject to a withering cross-examination by the Attorney General's office, and we'll find out about it later by reading about it. It is what it is. Thank you for watching. I'm Dave Aronberg, State Attorney for Palm Beach County, aka the Florida Lawman. If you like this video, please like it, and I'll see you next time.
Hey Meidas Mighty, love this report? Continue the conversation by following us on Instagram @MeidasTouch to keep up with the most important news of the day. What are you waiting for? Follow us now.